what are some of the challenges that EMS services face in rural counties like Schuyler?
So there are a number of challenges, and if I could just, I'll go first, I guess. I won't be polite. I'll go first. Um, the biggest challenges are these are all volunteer organizations that volunteerism just isn't what it used to be. The world is different now than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. And people are just not able to devote that kind of time to community anymore. And so these organizations have morphed into more of a payer type organizations. But the problem is high levels of training necessary, not enough people, and the business model now that you have to pay folks to do what used to be done for free just doesn't work anymore. The reimbursement process through insurances, through government insurances, is very difficult to keep up with the expenses and rising expenses, not just in the short term, but we all know medical inflation is always significantly higher than regular inflation. And then particularly in the rural areas, we don't have enough calls and we're covering more distances. So it really takes our rigs out of operation a lot longer to get to hospitals, to get to people. You know, when you're in a city, you can usually get from point A to point B pretty quick, and there's lots of density in cities, so there's lots of calls. In the rural areas, fewer calls, longer distances to cover, and then obviously fewer volunteers. So there's lots of different reasons, but it all kind of revolves around having the personnel to be able to do it and the business model that just doesn't work economically anymore.
Okay, Becky, did you want to add to that?
I might just add to that, to what Fonda's saying, and Fonda, you did an amazing job. So great job, by the way. I might just add that every minute counts when you're responding to an EMS visit. And so I think we heard Dr. Stallone talk about this the other night in our opening, but minutes are critical, especially minutes to your brain and minutes to your muscles and what that means. And so when Fonda talks about that, you know, the benchmark for time is like 9 minutes. And for us to be able to do that across one county, right, to have service in one county is amazing. And so being able to make sure people are getting the care that they need in the time frame that's expected is something that's difficult for any ambulance service.
So what do you think are some of the things that should or could change in order to, I mean, it's a critical service. It's not like it's not something that's, you know, you elect to have. It's something that everybody needs to have available, and you never know when you're going to need emergency services. So what do you think, I guess, in your opinion, needs to change, in order to, I guess, first part of that question is how critical of a situation are we in? And then second part of that question is, what do you think needs to change in order to continue to provide good service to people in the area?
You want to take that one, Becky?
Nope, go ahead. You're on a roll.
Okay, so the biggest problem I think is the reimbursement model, right? Because if it was profitable for organizations to do this in a rural setting, they'd be doing it, right? The market would be successful. There'd be companies vying to come in and do it in smaller counties or more rural counties, and that's not what's happening. I think it's important to know that you call this a critical service, but the state does not mandate or call this a critical service like they would fire or they would police. So changing that designation would actually be very helpful, I think. Although I don't know all of the legal ramifications for that. It's hard to believe that you know, EMS services aren't on par with fire and police. So
are they not
those are a
considered
couple
essential?
Not in the way that police and fire are.
Why is that?
And so that may, I think we'd have to talk to our folks in Albany about that.
Yeah. And Becky?
I would just agree with what Fonda's saying in healthcare in general. The reimbursement structure, the rising costs just don't keep up with the payment, the reimbursement payments that you receive, right? So if inflation was 6% this year and your payments from the government, which here that's 70% of our population is a governmental payer, is 1% to 2%, then it just doesn't keep up with those rising costs. And that just makes it harder for people to operate and to pay people a living wage to do the work that needs to be done.
And in terms of this reimbursement model, people get reimbursed through checks to pay the ambulance services. Like they get a check in the mail that is supposed to go so that they can pay their bill instead of the check going to the ambulance service. And then people just keep the checks. Is that what you're talking about?
So that's not specifically what we're talking about, but that
Okay.
does happen. So I guess what we're saying is, let's say that you have to run a 24-hour rig, right? That's two people, at whatever the rate is that they get paid. But because you live in a rural community, you only see 4 calls during one day. The reimbursement that you're going to get from Medicare or Medicaid doesn't actually cover the cost of the people that you had to employ, right? But
Gotcha.
secondarily, what you're saying does happen. You think about like auto shops, like they run into the same thing, right? It depends on how your plan is set up and who they make payments to. And so if the insurance company does make the payment to the patient can cash that check, right? And they aren't necessarily obligated to pay for the service that they received. And then there's been new legislation in New York State in particular for healthcare services, that we actually can't garnish anyone's wages. We can't put liens on people's homes. And so there's not really a good way to actually recoup that money without someone voluntarily paying that money for the service that they received.
What do you think? And you can answer like if you both have something to say one at a time, however you want to do it. What do you think the strengths are of your current EMS service?
Becky.
So I would say is the team. So number one, we put a team together here, and I'm not taking credit for this at all. There's a bunch of people that put this together that I think we said the other day it was 11 months time frame since this conversation started till it actually going live. So the people that are here, we have a community that really loves the community, that wants to make sure that they're getting the services that they need. So it's the team that put the service together, but then it's also the EMTs and the paramedics that are actually doing the job. We have people that want to make sure that people are being taken care of, and they know what their goal times are, and they're interested in making sure that they're actually meeting those goals. So I'm going to say the strength really is the people that this service is built on.
And Fonda?
And I would agree with that 100. I'd agree with that 110%. But above and beyond that, for the county to be able to collaborate with a wonderful organization that Becky represents, and Marty as well, and the fact that they're open to really serving the community, that almost doubles your strength, right? When you're going at it alone, it's a lot harder. But when you have good collaborators and good partners and friends that can join forces to do the right thing for the community, it makes everybody's lift just a little bit easier. And then having the expertise of the hospital, along with some of the operational expertise of our emergency management office, is an incredible synergy. So of course it's the people, there's no question about it. And everything that I say, there's people driving all of that. But it's always good to have people at the top who are thinking big picture. And I have to give credit to Becky and Marty that they think big picture, they think community minded, and to be able to join forces with them is well, you see the result. An amazing 11th month transformation, to be able to serve our residents the best we can.
Excellent. And what are the goals of your service?
Well, the goals are actually quite simple. To meet the national benchmark of 9 minutes to response time. That is the goal. Underneath that, there are a number of financial goals, obviously, and critical quality goals to make sure that we don't just get there, but we get there and do it right. And so those are all secondary goals. But the most important thing is to get somebody who's trained and able to help somebody at scene in a timely manner, and to do it consistently and do it with high quality.
Operate with excellence is the phrase we like to use.
Do you, in your county, are firefighters, do firefighters in Schuyler County respond as like to EMS calls? Because in Monroe County, they do. Like if you call 911 and you say you have like a medical emergency, they'll send the firefighters. Is that the way things are in your county or no?
It is true too, because sometimes you have to get into a house, and the fire services have permission to enter houses where the EMS folks do not. So they join the call together so that you can enter a house. A lot of times our folks get to a scene beforehand, if it's a car accident or something, or somebody in a public building, they can obviously get right in there and treat. But oftentimes you need that fire response to go along with the ambulance response.
As much as they're showing up and it's a day where it's the person's worst day, the person that they're helping, their people are happy to see them. So it's such, it's a difficult job being a first responder, right?
Could be the hardest job of all, right? The things that you see, the things that you have to deal with. We are very fortunate to have a group of professionals that not only know their technical skills, but have the people skills to go along with it. They're compassionate and empathetic people. That's what we've targeted. That's what we've been able to get. And we're very fortunate to have that crew there, very much so.
And talking with some of my friends who are firefighters in the community, they're very happy to. They've done nothing but rave about the staff that we've employed, the responses, and how they're able to work together. So that's a bonus when you're talking about, the firefighters responding and EMS responding together. We already have collaboration and synergies that are so important.
That's great. So moving along to our next question. Actually, I already asked you the biggest challenge. I guess, how did we arrive at the current service model the way it is?
Sure. So as Becky said, about 11 months ago, right around this time, I guess, so it's maybe just slightly over that from a time frame, stakeholders got together to try and answer a challenge of how do we fix our EMS services. We had one of our volunteer organizations say that we're going to close our doors. We just don't have enough volunteers. We can't spin up our rigs. We just don't have the people to be able to do it. And that was kind of the impetus to say we really better tackle this. And so we've got all the players got together. We talked about what are the challenges, what can we do about it. And around the June timeframe, we said it's about time that we not only just talk about solutions, but actually try and figure out what those solutions are. And over the next several months, the county, in conjunction with lots of different organizations and with CMC and Schuyler Hospital, we developed a plan which ended up turning into SEMS, which is Schuyler Emergency Management System. It was pretty quick when you think about what we accomplished as a group, but it was necessary, and we had enough dedicated people to kind of run it over the finish line.
That's great. Becky, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that Fonda summed it up very well. I don't have anything to add to that.
All right, great. So moving right along, is the Schuyler model one that other rural communities in our region could utilize?
It's certainly possible. It really takes a dedication on both sides, both the county and whatever health system is operating in that county. It's all about if people are dedicated to the idea, and if they are, it can really happen. And I think it is a model for other counties to take a look at. I have taken a couple of calls from some other county officials from other counties, just asking some questions, seeing, what really was the underlying thought process behind why we went in the direction we did. So I think people are starting to talk about it and talk about what we've accomplished here as a group. And it would not surprise me if we were the test case and others did the copying. Although in this case, it's not like copying off your neighbor in grade school. This is okay to copy.
Yeah.
And we're happy to help anybody.
What is
but we would be happy to help anyone. The model is a collaboration between the county and a health system, in which both invest time and dollars into a contract that Becky's organization takes care of and executes. We hold that contract accountable as far as metrics are concerned, metrics of success. And the county has invested dollars into this program to get it off the ground. And the ultimate goal is for Becky's organization to take it over 100%, including having the certificate of need, and running it as a standalone operation.
I think I might just add just a little bit of color to that. It's just that we saw that the best way to do this was to utilize the best of what both of us brought to the table. And Fonda and his team had a lot of the operational knowledge necessary to actually get it off the ground. And we had a lot of the business operations available that we could offer almost a turnkey product if we could work together in a way. And so this collaboration has been really good. We both bring highly necessary skills to the table in order to complete that. And so I think, like he said, with the end goal of the hospital and the health system taking this over at the end of that 2-year period.
Interesting. And now I'm starting to understand why I'm interviewing both of you, right? Because now I'm like, okay, she's there, he's there, and now I'm understanding how you're connected. Excellent. So what is your message to communities? And I mean, you kind of touched on this when you said you were willing to help and answer questions, but what is your message to communities that are dealing with similar challenges like staffing issues and reimbursement issues and all the things that we've kind of talked about?
So I guess the message I would say is, get your folks together, get your stakeholders together. A lot of the problems are similar, but a lot of the problems are going to be area specific. Every county is built differently. They have different personnel and they have different volunteer and paid service organizations. Study your problem, get your best people on it. And if we can help, if our model seems like something that makes sense, that's great. If not, there's lots of different ways to tackle the problem. This was a great way for Schuyler County to attack our problem. It might fit others, but there are lots of ways to get around these challenges. And the best thing to do is folks in the emergency management area are very dedicated to their communities, and they will do the work to figure it out. So there's lots of resources out there. Big shout out to state EMS. They were so helpful in navigating us through all of the pitfalls that could have derailed us. So there is all kinds of help out there. You just have to figure out what you want to do and ask for it.
I would just say, right, where there's a will, there's a way. And so if there's something that needs to be done, there's always people out there that are willing to collaborate. There's always more than one way to attack something. And so if you know that you need to get something done, don't shy away when your first option maybe didn't work out the way that you wanted to. In this case, we looked at multiple different strategies. And so keep moving forward. If it's worth doing right, and just keep moving forward and getting it done.
And Becky, I feel like what you said can be applied to so many different things in life. Like that attitude of like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what you just said was like, oh, she's right.
I think that's
inspiring.
Yeah. I mean, I think as health systems, that's pretty much how we think most of the time. Is we're always looking for different and new ways. How do you get things done better? How do we bring in collaborative partners to help us? And a lot of things you can't do on your own, but when you reach out and you see who else is interested in helping, you can accomplish a lot.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, it's very cool to think about. So gosh, I'm trying to think if I have any other questions. Okay, I'll open up the floor. What would you like to add? What should I have asked you that I didn't? Something interesting that I missed?
I wouldn't add anything. When Becky talked about the people that are in this organization that are doing the work on a day-to-day basis, she hit the nail on the head. We've got fantastic people and wonderful organizations behind those people to make sure this is going to be a success. And I guess that's just more of a synopsis than anything and adding anything new.
Sure.
I think I would just thank the people that were involved in getting this decision making done. I think we've had great support and help from the bottom up since the moment that this started. And I'm just thankful for open minds and people who want to make sure that our community gets taken care of. So I think you asked all the right questions. And I think, the sky's the limit. If there's something that needs to be done, just keep moving it.